All right, should be live. It says I'm live, so why would I have any reason to not believe YouTube? Anyway, wait for the usual. Wait, my streaming? It still says waiting for. Oh, myself now. So I am live. Sorry for that. I was confused for a second. The YouTube was acting weird. It said I was live, but then I go on my channel and it says the stream is still scheduled to go live. So I was confused for a second there, but all should be fine now, I suppose. All right, one person so far. Um, Usually people come on in, more people come on in as the stream goes on. Hello, Robert. How are you doing on this fine Friday? I suppose. Um, yeah, I would call this Friday fine. Nothing substantial has been going on with me, so I mean, things could be better, I suppose, but nothing substantial also indicates that nothing bad is going on. So, well, I mean, um, I still have that, the horror with my uncle recovering from a stroke, but he's slowly but surely progressing, so it's not all bad news on that front. I'm good. I was listening to the Mario 64 version of Linkin Park's Meteora. Speaking of Linkin Park, have you heard the new single with the new vocalist? I thought it was pretty good. Definitely better than anything on One More Light. I still think it's very unfortunate that you know um, the Chester era of Linkin Park had to end with that album. But you know, I still feel kind of shitting on that album because it did come out like what a month or two before Chester Bennington's suicide. But a bad album is a bad album, and I did not like that album. They probably would have gotten back on track had Chester Bennington not died. I don't doubt that. But this new vocalist, I think she fits the bill really well. And I've seen I've seen my share of hate towards the vocalist, and I'll get to that. But I've seen mostly praise for the vocalist, so I'm glad to see that most of the fan base also agrees that she's a really good fit. Now, I'm more of um, a casual Linkin Park fan. I haven't heard every album. The albums I heard specifically were Hybrid Theory, Meteora. Those are my two favorites. Hunting Party and One More Light. Because One More Light was mostly just curiosity because I heard endlessly how bad that album was. I listened to it before Chester's death, but anyway, even still, I'm looking forward to this new album. I should really listen to the rest of Linkin Park's discography. In the meantime, before this album comes out, people have been telling me to listen to the remainder of the Linkin Park albums that I haven't heard, and I just never have gotten around to that. Anyway, I have seen well, my share. Saying my share implies that there's a lot of hate, which there isn't, but I have seen some hate when it comes to the new vocalist, mainly from people who are like, "You can't replace Chester. My childhood is ruined now with this new singer that isn't Chester." Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know the band was erasing their whole discography. But all their previous albums, their back catalog that features Chester, those old songs and albums are still there for you to listen to. You don't have to fucking pay attention to any new material that doesn't have Chester involved in it. I might make a whole video about this actually. So think of this as a little preview for that video. But I just hate the mentality that so many people have that the frontman of a band is the be all end all member of said band. All the other members don't count. Well, I shouldn't say they don't count, but these people tend to discount the other members who are equally as responsible, if not even more responsible, for the great music that you love from said band. And if that band chooses to continue after the death of a frontman, I think it's perfectly fine. Again, there are other members of the band besides that one member. And it's very disrespectful to just minimize the input of the other members by putting one member, the vocalist, on a pedestal and saying that is the one member you cannot replace and go on without. A lot of chat messages during my little rant there that I should really read. Yep, I watched the live stream yesterday. I liked One More Light, but I understand why people didn't like it. I don't just dislike One More Light because I went in a more poppy direction. I mean, Linkin Park has made their share of poppy sounding songs even before that album. It's just a chore to listen to. I've tried listening to it. I listened to it 2 more times after my first listen. The first time was sometime in, I think, 2020, and then the second time 2 years later, I believe. I just think it's a very drony, boring album. Hey, nice glasses. Thank you. I might be getting new frames soon. I don't know yet. Had these frames since 2021, I think. And I usually get my eyes checked every 2 years, but I skipped that last year for some reason. Hello, Michael. Hello, Sean. How you doing? I'm gonna smoke a bowl of tobacco in my water pipe. Have fun with that. R.I.P. Chester Bennington. Still miss him after all these years. Yeah, it's still kind of hard to believe that he's gone. I remember when I first heard the news that he had passed away, or you know, more so, or killed himself actually. Um, but I wouldn't say it was a total shock, considering depression has always been a big theme of Linkin Park's music. But even still, it was really sucky to hear. Um, at the time, I wasn't the biggest Linkin Park fan, and you could say even today I'm not the biggest Linkin Park fan. I still haven't heard their entire discography, but 3 out of the 4 albums I've heard I really like. So I think I would like the other Linkin Park albums I haven't heard. But it's always terrible to hear when someone takes their own life. I've shared this on this channel before. I think I even made a video about this around the time it happened, but probably took it down at this point. But I have a friend who in 2018 attempted to take their own life. He's a lot better these days, thank God. And he's in a much better headspace. But I know firsthand the horror of finding out that someone you're close to at the very least attempted to take their own life. So suicide is a pretty touchy thing for me. Thankfully, I don't know anyone who has successfully taken their own life, but still, the pain is very much the same, even if they don't succeed. Just with the knowledge of knowing that your friend is suffering really bad with mental health issues. Speaking of Linkin Park, what are your favorite music genres? Um, Rock, primarily. That's what I mostly listen to. More specifically, classic rock, if you want to consider that a legitimate genre. It's more like just an umbrella term for rock songs older than 25 or so. I like prog rock a lot. Pink Floyd is my favorite band. Psychedelic rock, folk rock. Also listen to some 80s thrash metal, but I'm primarily a rock guy. Oh, and alternative rock. I love my share of 90s rock too. I love Mike Shinoda's rapping too. I do too. I do too. Have you ever tried tobacco? No, I haven't, and I don't plan to. The new singer is Emily Armstrong, and I think she's good. I think she's great. Again, I think she's a great fit for the band. I haven't listened to every performance um, of her with the band that has been uploaded yet. I intend to listen to more, but I've heard some of her takes on the band's back catalog, and she's able to pull off the songs that Chester sung really well as well, which is great. I think it's the perfect balance of bringing a new sound to the band and also emanating Chester's energy and voice a little bit. There's a school bus right behind my house. If you heard that. Oh yeah, the school year in NYC started yesterday. Not my problem though, because I don't go to school anymore. Graduated back in 2019, so I uh, I pity those who are still in uh, still in their school years here in NYC. This is so far the best live stream I've ever seen, other than a stream where a guy at Pizza Hut was throwing a temper tantrum on stream, threatening to beat up the Pizza Hut workers. You have a interesting taste in entertainment, but I won't judge. I'd heard about three songs before Chester died. Honestly, I didn't even know his name before his death. Well, I knew who he was before he died. I already listened to Hybrid Theory and Meteora before his death, and I already liked those albums. I think I tried to play it off back then, like I didn't like Linkin Park all that much. I think I'd tell people, "Oh, I like most of Hybrid Theory, some of Meteora, but other than that, Linkin Park is shit." Because interestingly enough, before Chester died, Linkin Park was one of these cool to hate bands that a lot of people would make jokes about. Oh, it's just edgy music for whiny emo teens and uh, you know, music for the quiet kid in the back of the class planning to do a school shooting, stupid shit like that. And then after Chester died, everyone has had nothing but nice things to say about Linkin Park for the most part. I mean, I'm sure you still find some hate somewhere, but I've noticed it's died down a lot ever since his death. But yeah, I was kind of a coward back then. I didn't say I tried to play it off like I didn't like Linkin Park all that much. When even back then, I still very much enjoyed the two Linkin Park albums I've heard, which again were the two most popular ones, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. I love classic rock too. Nice. I've noticed quite a few people in my audience share my taste in music, which is awesome. I prefer tobacco, but weed should be legal. It absolutely should be legal. I've how many streams at this point have I talked about wanting weed, um, nationwide weed legalization, and a legalization on drugs in general, for that matter. I won't rehash everything I said here for out of respect to the people who have heard it a million times, but you know my take. If you want to put harmful shit into your own body, you should have that choice. Not saying I condone you doing that, but I don't think you should be thrown in a jail cell for doing so. I love pop, mostly old pop, but I also like R&B, surf rock, pop rock, J-pop, and much more. I haven't really heard much J-pop. I'm not really familiar with much non-English speaking bands in general. I should probably or solo artists also. Should really expand my horizons a bit more on that front. Have you ever played Project Zomboid? I haven't. I don't think I even heard of that. I graduated back in 2017, 2 years before me. I graduated back in 1984. Wow. I think you're by far the oldest person in this chat. Certainly older than me. I wasn't born for another 17 years. Sorry, I didn't mean to rub that in your face. You're gonna what? There was another school shooting in Georgia the other day. Oh yeah, I heard of that. Um, my mom actually sent me an article about the shooter. Shooter's still alive. I thought for sure it was another school shooter that would immediately kill themselves after the shooting happened. Uh, Apparently, they got an AR-15 for Christmas. Like, I'm so tired of the fucking gun nut culture. Like, here's the thing. I'm not for taking people's guns away. Like, I'm not one of those people, but I think there definitely should be stronger restrictions on who has access to guns in this country. And I think we should probably stop with the, incessant worship of guns and giving your kids guns on top of that. I mean, I don't know anything about this kid's home life, but if they were exhibiting clear cut signs of mental instability, that would indicate that, maybe it's not the best idea to let them have unrestricted access to a fucking AR-15. It's just so ridiculous. Hello, Glitchy. How you doing? Take a hit of tobacco. Oh, I'm gonna take a hit of tobacco. That's what you were saying. Well, hope you're enjoying it. I don't listen to Linkin Park, but dang, why do so many people enjoy shitting on others' taste in music? Because people like feeling a sense of superiority over very trivial shit like their taste in music. I like classic rock. I don't listen to shit like Billie Eilish or Taylor Swift or any other popular mainstream act of today. I mean, I don't like those art. Well, I like Billie Eilish, but I don't like Taylor Swift and a lot of other um, modern pop artists either. But I'm not like basing my entire personality around that. I'm just like people like what they like, and I'm not gonna shit on other people for their tastes in music because why should I? Music is an incredibly subjective thing. There is no objectively good taste in music. I don't know about legalizing drugs, but people shouldn't be punished for doing drugs like meth or crack, but should be in rehab. Yeah, again, I don't think people should be locked up for drug consumption. But ultimately, I view drug consumption as a victimless crime. Most, drug users made the decision to take those drugs. I don't see the point in criminalizing something that you choose to put in your own body. It never made sense to me. Even as a little kid, I would ask my mom, why are drugs illegal? Why is cocaine and heroin and all that illegal? Not that I want to do those things. I was back then, even back then, well aware of the horrible effects that could occur from taking those drugs. But I was still curious to know why exactly they were illegal because I just viewed it as an activity that you know people engage in at their own volition. I mean, if someone was against their will given drugs, well, that's a completely different story. But I never really saw the point in criminalizing drugs in general. I think it's stupid that anyone would go to prison for doing drugs. I agree. I'm 58. Huh. I don't know how many 58-year-olds are watching my videos. I'm more used to the age of I'm more used to people around my age watching my stuff. Not to say, of course, you're not allowed to watch my videos. I mean, how the fuck would I even be able to police who watches my videos or not? But still, just find that kind of interesting. What is your opinion on the Beach Boys? I haven't listened to much Beach Boys stuff. Pet Sounds is a fucking amazing album, though. I've listened to that album because I've heard the endless praise for it, and I can definitely see why it's considered one of the all-time one of the greatest albums of all time, I should say. But aside from Pet Sounds, I've heard like bits and pieces of Beach Boys stuff here and there. I have golf fish. I don't know what that means. Some people believe weed causes school shootings. Yeah, I mean, people who won probably still think weed is a gateway drug for heroin and cocaine and crack and all that shit. And to people who want to find a scapegoat for school shootings, they blame stupid. They blame completely irrelevant shit like you know weed or video games for school shootings happening when they want to completely distract away from you know a I wouldn't say a real solution like this obviously wouldn't put a complete stop to school shootings, but maybe at least curtail it a little bit, you know, more restrictions on who has access to guns in this country. Because this is a very unique problem in the US. Other countries don't see nearly as many school shootings happening or any school shootings happening at all. Maybe being very liberal when it comes to who gets guns in this country correlates with all of the mass shootings that happens in this country. Hmm. There were threats against Franklin County, Georgia schools recently, and they had to close. So I didn't hear about that. Damn, Georgia is really. I don't know what the fuck has been going on there lately. Why the fuck would anyone have a gun for Christmas? On top of that, a 14-year-old. You want to teach your kid responsibility when it comes to handling a gun, fine, but yeah, I don't think you should be giving your teenage son a gun, especially an AR-15. Like, fucking hell. Yeah, he was some 14-year-old kid. His father got arrested too, and he was crying in court. Yeah, I heard the father got arrested for, again, for having the brilliant idea of giving his son an AR-15 for Christmas. His 14-year-old son. Like, I can't hammer in enough how stupid that was. Other counties and cities had threats recently too. I think only cowboy guns should be available. Well, of course you do, John Marston. Speaking of that, I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2 again. Still, I only just started my new playthrough the other day, so I'm still only in the middle of chapter 2. One of my favorite games of all time. First game is amazing too. And speaking of Red Dead Redemption 2, I don't know. I made a video about the game. Well, not about the game, more so like about some kids saying that they think the game is boring. And somehow that video got over 2,000 views. And I don't know where the fuck those people came from because usually the video game, usually people sleep on my video game videos, you know? It's mostly like the politics and YouTube drama stuff that most people who sub to me watch. So I'm not used to a video of me talking about a video game getting a high amount of views. The dad gave the kid the gun too, and the kid had a history of making threats too. Well, if your kid has a history of making threats, and I assume violent threats, you don't think giving them a gun isn't the brightest idea? Like, at that point, you're pretty much asking for a disaster like this to happen, a tragedy like this to happen. My son told me Trump blamed school shootings on video games. He did, um, like, what, 5 years ago or something. I remember making a joke video, a troll video, I should say, saying that I agree with this point, and I remember at the end pretending to smash my Switch. That was a fun video to make. I don't like Taylor Swift either. Yeah, I never understood the appeal in her music. It's annoying constantly hearing about her though. Like I would not even think about Taylor Swift at all if I didn't have to fucking constantly hear her name, constantly hear about her. Oh my god, she's dating some football player that just won the Super Bowl. I don't pay attention to Taylor Swift. I don't pay attention to football or sports in general, so those two things combined, just yeah, I really cannot fucking care less. But the discourse surrounding her is damn near inescapable. Even though classic rock is a special interest of mine, there are some artists, modern artists I enjoy. But yeah, I don't just listen to old music. There's some modern artists and bands that I enjoy as well. Not as much as I don't enjoy as many modern artists as I should, though. I should definitely check out more modern stuff. I have a friend on Discord who's trying to get me into King Gizzard's discography. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, I think. His band's name is called. I just called him King Gizzard. That's a modern band. I only formed only started making music like what in the last 15 years or so. How old are you? I am 23. I'm turning 24 in March. I don't get why video games are given all the blame for violence, but movies get away scot free. Because video games are still a relatively new form of media, so it's much easier to go after video games and use them as a scapegoat for the violence that goes on in this country and in this world in general, as opposed to blaming more established forms of media like movies and TV shows and such, or music. Well, I mean, music does get blamed for violence sometimes as well. Like back in the 90s, people were trying to pin Marilyn Manson on the Columbine shooting happening. But in general, if something is new and the older generation doesn't fully understand it, then it's usually used as a scapegoat by those who, don't understand or not as familiar with that form of media as, younger folk. First shooter of the next generation, 2010 and afterborns are Gen Alpha. Is it 2010 when Gen Alpha starts? I thought it was a little later, like 2012, 2013. I don't know. I always get conflicting answers when it comes to this. Think of people have talked about Gen Alpha and some of my other streams, and some people say 2012 or 2013 or, like you said, 2010. I never get a definitive answer on when the fuck this generation starts. And when does Gen Z start? Was it 97, I think? I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of these labels for different generations. Because it's all so fucking muddy. Do you have a guilty pleasure show you love, but you feel ashamed to doing so? No. I mean, I like some shows that people consider bad. For example, I like Full House. Very nostalgic show for me, but I know it's corny as hell, but it's corny in an endearing way. So I never hated Full House like a lot of people seem to, but I don't feel shame in enjoying it. Because why should I? It's a show I like, and if anyone has a problem with me liking a show that they don't like, they can just get fucked. Like, I don't care. I don't really like the concept of guilty pleasures. You like what you like, and again, if other people take issue with what you like, then who gives a shit? My guilty pleasure is Happy Tree Friends. Yes, you can tell by my Cuddles profile picture. I've binged Happy Tree Friends a couple of times. That series used to scare me when I was a kid because it's so deceptively cute and cuddly, and then you get these cute animals getting mutilated in the most horrific ways possible. They still making Happy Tree Friends videos? I'm pretty sure it was the Parkland shooting when Trump said that. Oh, so 6 years ago he said that, I think. No, I think I made that video where I jokingly agreed with him, um, saying that video games are the cause of shootings. Around the time that Dayton, Ohio shooting happened. I don't know. He probably said it on both occasions. Wouldn't surprise me. Even though I'm 58, I play video games. Nice. I don't think there is an age cap when it comes to your enjoyment of video games. I remember when Shake It Off was airing on the radio a lot when it was new. Oh god, that song was fucking inescapable when it came out. Well, a lot of songs off of that album. That was her 1989 album, right? Or was it the one before, the one after? I forget. But I remember when that album came out, the like half of the fucking songs in that album you just could not escape. I remember finding pretty much all of them to be very annoying. She made a remake of that album recently, right? I remember hearing about that when it released. And I heard she's been doing remakes of her old albums lately because she got fucked over by a producer or something. I don't know the full scope about that, though. I don't know what her 2024 take of Shake It Off sounds like, but I'm quite, quite frankly not very interested. My favorite games are Project Zomboid, Fallout 4, and any old school Nintendo games like Super Mario 3. When it comes to old Mario games, my favorite is Mario World. Mario 3 is also great, but Mario World is pretty much a more refined version of Mario 3. I didn't care much for Fallout 4, though. King Gizzard, never heard of them. Yeah, they're pretty niche, pretty out there, too. A lot of their albums don't sound anything alike. They're cool. I don't know if I consider them one of my favorites, though. Again, it's a friend on Discord who's getting me into them, and I'm getting him into David Bowie's discography. She also flies for short flights on her jet. Yeah, she uses that fucking jet like it's her car. No, that's CO2 she's polluting the air with. Slay Queen. My son is 20. Well, I'm 3 years older than your son. I don't listen to today's music, but I'm kind of interested in Olivia Rodrigo. I heard of Olivia Rodrigo, but I don't think I've ever heard a single song by her. If she's good, I'll check her out. I don't know anything about her music. 2012. Oh, is that when Gen Alpha starts? Is it 2012? I find it weird. Gen Z starts supposedly in, I think, 1997, and it goes all the way to 2011, if Gen Alpha really does start in 2012. So, the oldest people in Gen Z would be what, 27 by this point, assuming their birthday has already happened. And the youngest person, the youngest people, um, in Gen Z are 13. That's a pretty big fucking gap. I don't consider those two people, to both age groups, to be considered part of the same generation. Because realistically, how much in common is a 27-year-old going to have with a 13-year-old? Ugh. Some people are transvestigating the shooter on Twitter. Of course they are. This is gonna happen every single fucking time a shooting happens at this point. You know, outside of video games and weed and all that shit, now we have people saying, you know, if you shoot up a school or commit a mass shooting in general, then you gotta be trans, right? It's so ridiculous. Like, I think I've said this before. I don't think trans people think of other trans people as much as transphobes do. It's really just so mind-boggling how, you know, some people's transphobia just completely fucking consumes their psyche. Like, look at J.K. Rowling. All day, every day on Twitter, she is ranting and raving about the existence of trans people. She could have been looked back on as one of the most accomplished authors in history. On top of that, you know, she was, well, really still is, an accomplished female writer, which is nothing to sneer at. But now her legacy is, muddied by all of her fucking, weird fixation on trans people and her obsession with stripping the rights of trans people. But whatever, I never gave a shit about Harry Potter anyway, so I don't really care much about the lasting legacy of J.K. Rowling. I remember reading Harry Potter back in 6th grade. I had a teacher recommend Harry Potter to me because I was a big reader as a kid. Still like to read today, but admittedly, I read more back then. And she was like, "You would really like the Harry Potter series," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And I think I made it halfway through the first book and got bored. And when it comes to the movies, I think I've only seen bits and pieces of the first movie. I'm pretty sure it was the first movie because the cast were still kids, in that movie. Um, and yeah, and I only watched the movie because on certain days in elementary school, if it was raining outside, we wouldn't go to recess after lunch. We would go in the auditorium and watch a movie instead. And a couple of those times they chose to play Harry Potter for us, and I barely paid attention. I was more busy talking to my friends. Where did I leave off? I don't even remember which comment my Harry Potter tangent stemmed from. Oh, I think it was the transvestigation one. I got the flu from my classmate. Oh, that sucks. Almost 2 years ago, I went to a family gathering on my father's side of the family. It was a birthday party for one of my uncles. He turned 60 that year, so he's going to be 62 soon in November. Um, and I had a really fun time. I got to see my father, got to see a lot of my father's family, people who I don't see that often. And but I guess one of them was really sick because I caught a really bad fever after that. Like for a whole entire week, I felt so fucking awful. And there were some instances too where I felt incredibly weak, like I couldn't even get out of bed or get out of my recliner. And I was like, oh fuck, did I catch COVID? Because I'm pretty sure that is one of the symptoms, really bad fatigue, um, loss of strength. But I took a test and I didn't have COVID. It was just a really bad fever. So I've been able to dodge COVID for over 4 years by this point, going on 5. Let's see if I make it to 5. My uncle, who lives in the room right next to mine, he got COVID. He went back to work in Manhattan for like a week, and he got COVID. This was back in 2022, like a few months before I got really sick, and ever since he's been able to work from home again. So I guess lucky him for that. No, I never caught it from him. Neither has my mother. Me and her have been able to dodge it. Yeah, 97. Well, when Gen Z started. Well, yeah, I'll reiterate. Like, what the fuck does a 27? I think um time span for Gen Z a little bit. I live very close to Aurora, Colorado, where the Columbine shooting happened. I was 32 at the time. Yeah, I was born just a little less than 2 years after Columbine, so I wasn't able to witness the shock that it, you know, sparked across the nation firsthand. But it's really unfortunate that so many of these shootings, school shootings, have happened since, in the near 30 years since it happened. Gen Z started in 1997. Yeah, what the other commenter said. My son was born in 2004, so yeah, I am 3 years older than your son. Was born in 2001, March of 2001. Speaking of tragedies, I technically did live through 9/11. I was an infant when it happened. I was 6 months old, or going on 6 months old when it happened. So obviously, I have no recollection of the day, but I can still say I lived through it. My uncle was still working in Manhattan, the one I just mentioned, the one who lives in the room next to me. He was working in Manhattan when it happened, so he witnessed a lot of the panic going on in the city firsthand. Took him all day to get home. I sometimes feel like an old, out of touch man when people my age talk about things I don't like or understand. I get that feeling too. When it comes to a lot of the stuff I like, I, it's kind of out of step with what a lot of other people in my age group like. Like a lot of people I know in real life, they don't listen to the same music I enjoy, or I don't have an interest in TikTok either, like a lot of them do, and a lot of people in my age group do. I do feel really out of step with my generation, and I don't mean that in the pretentious, like, "Ugh, I'm so special" sense. No, genuinely, my interests differ, and my tastes in music and such differ. I don't really find a whole lot of people, at least in real life, who share my taste in things like music and such. Whoa, the chat just all of a sudden got these influx of messages. Lost my place. There we go. Gen Z is 1997 to 2012. Gen Alpha are 13 to 2028, I think. So my little cousin supposedly was born the first year Gen Alpha began. He was born in July of 2013. So he just celebrated his 11th birthday. I see him from time to time. One thing I'm really proud of when it comes to the times I have interacted with them was getting him into the GameCube. Um, he comes by every once in a blue moon, not that often anymore. Um, but when he does, he usually wants to play on my GameCube. A couple of times I played Double Dash with him. Yes, I am capable of having positive interactions with kids from time to time, if it's in very small doses. I read the news and was shocked and disturbed. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I remember when Sandy Hook happened. I was 11. It was 2012 it happened, right? I remember of all days though, I was homesick that day, and since it was close to Christmas, we also that was also the day we had not a family member, but a family friend come to stay with us for the holiday. She stayed with us until after the New Year. She was from a different country. Um, I remember she arrived to the house that day, and again I was homesick, and I came down to say hi to her, and my grandma had the TV on, and it was just coverage of what just happened at Sandy Hook. Grandma told me, "Oh, school was shot up," and she said like a whole bunch of children are dead. I was like, "Shit." And then after that, it became common practice. Well, not super duper common, but you know, um, I'd say once every few months in middle school and high school, we would have school shooting drills. Imagine such a thing, having to do such a thing at school. Practice, hiding in the back of a classroom in case a shooter enters the building. But this is the reality we live in. This is the country we live in. And yet, people, mostly conservatives and Republicans, claim that there is no problem with having unrestricted access to guns. There shouldn't be any sufficient background checks or mental health checks when it comes to acquiring a gun. I'm sure Trump is still rallying against sufficient gun control behind his bulletproof glass at his rallies. Mine is playing Manhunt. It's very fun to see Pigsy do a backflip. Manhunt is a game, right? I think I've heard of it. Gen Alpha is mostly 2013 to 2025, if I recall correctly. See, this is why I fucking hate these generation labels. Like, you get all these conflicting answers when it comes to when it starts, when it ends. Not to throw shade at the chatter, soulless emperor, but in general, like, that's why I'm not a big fan of these generation labels, because a lot of people just don't seem to agree on when a generation begins and ends. I see videos on my recommended page of people shitting on Gen Alpha. Reminds me of when the boomers were getting shit on back in the early 70s for being hippies. Yeah, it's funny, people act like Gen Z and Gen Alpha are uniquely bad when that's not the case at all. I'm sure if social media existed back in the 60s, you would get no shortage of boomers when they were our age acting like dipshits. It's just a generation divide, When you get older, naturally you don't relate to the younger generation anymore. You get out of step when it comes to their interests and their vernacular and how they behave and such. And instead of trying to understand these people, you try to dismiss them as stupid and try to say, "Oh, the future of humanity is doomed. Look at what our future has to provide." And I guarantee you, in like 30 years from now, my generation, Gen Z, we're gonna be shitting on whatever the fuck generation will be considered the young generation by then. It's like clockwork. I've heard they're currently working on Happy Tree Friends episodes. Oh, those are still being made. I only got into Happy Tree Friends because of the cute little characters. Well, do you like seeing those characters get mutilated and murdered and shot and stabbed or whatever other horrible shit happens to them in the show? Because that is the point of the show. It's deceptively cute and cuddly, but the actual content of it is not. Taylor Swift's Shake It Off made me want to smash my 2008 Ford dashboard back in 2015. I don't blame you. I really do not like that song even to this day. She annoys me because I know someone who printed out a pic of her to make out with. Who, Taylor Swift? Someone printed out a picture of Taylor Swift to make out with. Well, that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, people can be really fucking weird and disgusting when it comes to celebrities, especially conventionally attractive celebrities. There's a tracker for her jet on Telegram and Blue Sky, and an Elon Musk jet tracker too. Yeah, is it from the same person that she tried to go after, or at least her team tried to go after? I don't know if it was Taylor Swift herself scrolling through Twitter and finding this account. I doubt it. But Yeah, it's so funny watching these billionaires get so angry when people are tracking their public jet flights. No, don't expose how much I'm fucking the air up for my completely unnecessary 20-minute jet flights. You're 13. What a age gap between the youngest and oldest chatters in this stream. One person is what, 59 and the other's 13. And I'm sure everyone else in between is around my age. I'm just smarter than most other people my age. I grew up so than how I grew up so far. Well, don't let that get to your head. I too thought I was smarter than everyone else when I was age 13, 10 years ago. What does transvestigate mean? It's when someone suspects another person of being transgender and they go to great lengths to try to prove that someone is transgender, even if that person is not transgender. So now we're blaming trans people in school shootings. Wow, just wow. Yeah, I know it's really ridiculous. These people are just not allowed to live in peace when their biggest crime is feeling like they were born in the wrong body. So they go through gender affirming care and surgery to rectify their feelings, and oftentimes they are a happier person afterwards. But we have to malign these people and accuse them of being shooters, or accuse them of being groomers, or accuse them of being all these horrible things in general, because so many people in this country just do not understand the concept of allowing someone to live life the way they choose to. That's a big part of the conservative dogma, not allowing people to have control over their bodies or who they want to be. They have to conform into a mold that was, made for them at birth, pretty much. I never got into the Harry Potter books, but thought the movies were okay, but not amazing. Again, I only saw the first one. At least I think it was the first one. Again, the cast were all kids, so I assume it was the first one. I know they kept making those movies until they were like in their 20s or late teens. But I can't tell you a single fucking thing about the movie because, again, I didn't really pay attention. I might buy a dark green shirt. I don't know why. I just want a dark green shirt. Well, if that's what you want, go for it. I personally like wearing band t-shirts. This t-shirt is a Weezer shirt. Wait, let me change my position. I'm actually pretty uncomfortable now. See, Weezer. As if my virginity wasn't apparent enough. Just got COVID yesterday. Well, sorry to hear that. How bad have you gotten it? Um, I had a friend who got COVID recently. Actually, he didn't even know he had COVID, because he was asymptomatic. Smoking weed at Taco Bell. I don't know if I would do that. Have you ever been to NYC? I live in NYC. I was a year old when 9/11 happened, so you're a year older than me. I remember for a long time thinking the 1986 in your username was your birth year. I have some more goldfish. Well, like the snack that smiles back. Well, if you're talking about that, I like eating some goldfish from time to time. I had an actual fish, not a goldfish. It was a beta fish. Back when I was 8 years old. Well, actually, no, 7. I was 7 years old, and the fish died when I was 8. That fish lasted a long time. That fish was over a year old when it died, which I believe is very unusual because usually those fish die relatively quickly. I named it Sheldon. It's kind of an ugly name, I know, but that's the name I went with back then for some reason. I think maybe because of SpongeBob. It's Plankton's real name. Uh, but yeah, I remember being really, really sad when that fish died. I was crying. Like one day I woke up and that fish was at the bottom of its tank. It wasn't even at the top. Um, just sitting there unresponsive, and it was very obvious that the fish had died. And that just crushed me. I got a few other fish, beta fish, after that. All of them died within days, and then I just kind of gave up. I got that fish around the same time Charlie was born. Charlie was born in April, and I think I got that fish in May or June of the same year, around that time. So that was technically my first experience when it comes to losing a pet, and it's only gotten much harder. 10 years after that, I lost Debbie, the cat that birthed Charlie, and two other cats that we have here that are still alive. Then I lost Charlie um, earlier this year in January. What a way to start the year! January 4th, he died. It was kind of a bad omen that this year was going to be fucking awful. A lot of bad shit has happened to me this year. Anyway, you were 35 when 9/11 happened. My mom was 34. She had me at age 34, and her birthday is just a little over a week before mine, so you're a year older than my mother. Imagine that. Someone older than my mom in chat. Imagine calling 9/11 on September 11th, 2001. Yeah, especially here in NYC. Is imagine if you had like a medical emergency or something that had nothing to do with the towers. When 9/11 happened, I was just a seed in an Italian man. That's very good to know. I'm gonna take another hit of tobacco. I cleared it. Cool. Several years after 9/11 happened, I remember coming across a recording of a man in the towers calling 911 when the tower collapses on him. The Kevin Cosgrove. Yeah, that's the name of the guy, Kevin Cosgrove. Um, yeah, that I refuse to listen to that call. That call was horrible. For whatever reason, when I was like 10 years old, my uncle decided to play that call for me. I was not expecting the guy to be, for the tower to fall in the middle of the call and hearing the guy screaming as it falls. That's very heavy for anyone in general to listen to, but especially a fucking 10-year-old. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. But yes, the Kevin Cosgrove recording is a harrowing listen. It's really terrible. Is your first name Michael and your last name Mikey? No, my last name isn't actually Mikey, but my real first name is Michael. I don't think I've gotten that question since like 2015 or 16. I remember I used to get that question a lot back when I did Q&A videos like all those years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. Is your last name actually Mikey? I feel like no, it's not. I've mentioned this before, but my father really hates the nickname Mikey. Well, I found out why recently. I talked about this a little bit in that half joke, half serious video I made when about me not liking the nickname Mickey or not liking it when people call me Mickey. I've mentioned it. I've mentioned this briefly in the video. My father hates the nickname, and he never liked it when people called me Mikey as a kid, even though he begrudgingly called me Mikey back then. Um, Found out why he hates that nickname. It's because his dad called him that nickname, and I'm not going to get into this in a public stream, but my grandfather, he died long before I was born in 1980, I think. He was very abusive towards my father, and let's just say did very, very horrible things to my two aunts. Leave it at that. And he called my father Mikey, and he just kind of associates that nickname with him. Anyway. The same guy is tracking Elon's jet and also Swift's jet. Yes, and God bless that guy. Truly. Um, I'm glad that, someone is tracking the insane usage of these billionaires' jets. They're fucking up. They're contributing to this. They're contributing to climate change by polluting the air with all their unnecessary jet flights. And yet they get so mad when the common folk call them out on this and, are aware of all of their erroneous, again, very unnecessary jet flights. Fuck them. At this point, Elon Musk is very comfortable with just, being public with how much of a piece of shit he is. But I hope Taylor Swift doesn't virtue signal about saving the environment because she does not care at all. Not one bit. I'm 59. I'm not 59. I'm 58. Don't make me feel a year older, silly. My mistake. I'm sorry. I'm not the best with ages. I mean, goddamn, sometimes I forget my own age. um, there's some days where I'm like, am I 24? Am I 23? Or am I 22? Oh, yeah, I'm 23. Born in 2001. Really goes to show how much my age really means to me. Nvidia lost 400 billion in value this week. Why? How exactly did that happen? I'm almost 18. My birthday is on the 12th of October. I'm currently 17 years old. Oh, I have a friend who was born on the 13th of October. So your birthday and his birthday are just a day apart. I hate living in this world sometimes. Oh, plenty of days where I just hate living in this world. Oh, the chat moved again. What the fuck? There we go. I don't really understand why people would choose to be trans, but I think transsexuals should be allowed to live as it's not anyone else's damn business. Yeah, I notice a lot of people um, in your age group feel the same way. Like my mom is 57, and she doesn't really understand trans people that well or why one would choose to be trans, but she has pretty much the same take. Why should it be any of her business, and who is she or anyone else to decide what one can do with their own bodies? And you know, I would encourage to read up more on trans issues and trans people to get a better understanding of gender dysphoria or why one would choose to transition to a different gender. But it's still a valid position, not fully understanding trans people or why they are trans, but at the end of the day, it's still supporting their right to transition to a different gender should they choose to. I have pizza now. I had some goldfish. What's your favorite Weezer album minus Pinkerton? As obvious of an answer as this is, my favorite album is the Blue Album. I mean, it's just a masterclass Weezer album. Every song on it is a banger. Fever and all. Coworker came to work with it. Oh god, that sucks. I'm sorry. I hope you feel better soon. Also, labeling specific groups of people as murderers or groomers is just inconsiderate of those who are victims of said heinous crimes and makes it less likely we can catch real pedophiles, trans or not. Yeah, I mean, that's also my problem with all of this, groomer rhetoric. It takes away from the seriousness of, you know, real victims of child grooming and, it turns it into this useless fucking witch hunt where you just throw around the words groomer and pedophile to people who aren't really groomers and pedophiles and takes, the power away from those words and basically gives those words no meaning anymore. And it's just so stupid to fixate on something like that in wake of a mass shooting happening. Like, who gives a fuck about the victims of mass shootings? Who gives a fuck about actually solving the mass shooting issue in this country, or at the very least curtailing the issue? No, let's focus on video games or weed or trans people. Completely obfuscate from the actual fucking problems in this country. And actually, pay respect to those who died horrifically in a senseless tragedy. Comments appear to be on a 2-minute delay. I don't think I have. Um, I don't think I have the little feature enabled where people could only send comments like once every 2 minutes or so. Unless you mean it takes me a while to actually get to comments. Like, it takes me like a minute or two to get to a comment, which, I mean, that's not the stream. That's me. I'm scrolled way up in the chat because I like reading every message, and as you probably know, it can take me forever to fucking respond to answer a chatter's question or respond to them. I just go into these rambles or rants that take me like 2 minutes or more to finish. So that's why it may seem like there's a delay, but there really isn't. I'm just really slow when it comes to answering these comments. I think it's just because there's so many messages that Michael can't keep up. Yeah, that's kind of it. But again, it's mainly because I'm just so fucking slow, and it can take me forever to fucking respond to a message. Because again, like, there are plenty of times where someone's chat message, reminds me of something else, and then I go into a ramble about that thing, and for like 2+ minutes. The 1986 in my name is the first Legend of Zelda's Japanese release here. Oh, that's what it means. Oh. Yeah, when I first met you, and for a while when I was doing these streams, I thought you were I thought you were actually born in 1986, but then I remember you mentioning in some other streams that you're like a year or so older than me. So then I thought the 1986 was just a random number at the end of your name, but now I know what it means. I'm eating peanut butter chocolate ice cream. A few weeks ago, I had Carvel ice cream. I'm a very simple person. I like vanilla ice cream, and sometimes I'll have chocolate ice cream, but mostly I go with vanilla. Very boring choice of ice cream, I know, but I don't care. I'm gonna go to McDonald's today. I think I had McDonald's a few months ago. I think I've said this before. I'm not the biggest McDonald's fan. I don't like eating at fast food places all that much. Once in a while, sure, I'll have McDonald's, especially if it's like the closest place and I'm really hungry, but as a rule, I don't like eating that much McDonald's. I like the chicken nuggets, though. Those are really tasty, but again, I don't like eating that all too often. Charlie, as in moist critical. I don't remember ever mentioning critical in this stream. The Charlie I mentioned, well, Robert answered your question. I had a cat named Charlie. Charlie was 15 years old. Had him since I was 7. And I have a cat named Pink now. I shared him a few months ago, or her. I'm sorry, Pink is a girl. I shared a picture of her in my community tab a few months ago, around the time I first adopted her. The first time I've actually adopted a cat and not just picked a stray up from the street. Charlie was originally a stray, and she was born. Her mother was a cat that lived in our backyard, and eventually we started letting the mother in the house too. Her name was Debbie. Debbie died in 2019, the day after Christmas of all days. My first experience of losing a pet was when my grandparents' dogs died. I was really close with them. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. I had a friend who lost a dog a few months ago. In April, they had to put the dog down. The dog's name was Jet. Um, my friend had this dog since 2010, I think. Um, he was 9 years old, I think, when they got the dog, and the dog the dog ran fast, so he he decided to name the dog Jet when he was a kid, and that dog lived to be 14 years old, which, to my understanding, is a very long life for a dog. I think the average life expectancy for a dog is 10, I believe. Or maybe it also depends on the breed, which I don't exactly know which breed Jet was. Off the top of my head, I'm not. I've never owned a dog, so I'm not good when it comes to dog breeds. Um, but yeah, well, I mentioned Jet not by name, but I've mentioned the dog back in my in both rants I did about dogs. Every time I would go to my friend's house, that dog would always run up to me and start barking in my face. It wasn't trying to attack me or anything. He was a really friendly dog. He just always wanted affection, and he wanted me to pay attention to him. And that dog was very crazy and very energetic. But even though the dog annoyed me, it doesn't mean I wanted to see the dog die or anything. I'm still really sad for my friend for losing a pet. But yeah, according to my friend, the last few months were really tough for Jet. He slowed down a lot. He wasn't moving that much anymore. Wasn't eating that much anymore, and just came to a point where it was obvious that Jet wasn't getting any better, and they just had to put the dog down. He has yet to get a new pet. He's not even sure if he wants another dog, which is understandable. I mean, that when you have a companion for that long, and and for since you were that young, it's hard to just get another pet after that. But with me and Pink, I'm close to her. She really likes me. I don't know if I'll ever have the same connection to an animal like I did with Charlie, but pets aren't direct replacements for the ones that preceded it. That's not how you should view a pet either. Have you ever smoked weed? I have smoked weed a lot of times. I remember seeing a video of a student from NYU filming the second plane's attack. I have seen plenty of videos of the planes flying into the buildings, and they never cease to, well, amaze is a very wrong word to use, but never cease to haunt me or just fill me with dread. Even though I was an infant that day and have no recollection of that day, those videos are still very terrifying. And usually these videos are coupled with people's reactions, and they're screaming in horror, like, "Holy shit, is this actually happening? A terrorist attack is going on." It's just videos are really just depressing to watch. And the anniversary is coming up in 5 days. Coincidentally, also with the anniversary of my grandmother's death, she passed away on September 11th, 2020. It'll be 4 years. God damn. Mikey is my favorite RDR2 character. Either you're making a joke, or I don't believe there is a character in RDR2 named Mikey. Maybe one of the stranger characters I've forgotten about, but none of the main ones. One of the main characters has kind of a similar name, Micah, but fuck Mike. I hope you're not referring to him. I have a supreme pizza. My favorite pizza topping is pineapple. Ooh, that's one of the things that successfully triggers me. I really don't like pineapple on pizza. I once had a pineapple pizza and I thought it was disgusting. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. My cousin Kyle is gonna be here in a minute or two, huh? If that means you're leaving, then see ya. I'm one of the few people that use their bong for tobacco because I don't smoke weed. I like smoking weed from bongs, but I mostly just like using joints when it comes to smoking weed. I am watching both your stream and a Queso video at the same time. I don't know who Queso is. I wonder if anyone died on the impact of the iceberg on the Titanic. Yeah, over 1,000 people died. Pistachio is my favorite ice cream. I've admittedly never had pistachio ice cream. Again, I'm a very plain guy when it comes to my ice cream. I just like mostly um, having vanilla ice cream and sometimes chocolate ice cream. The Carl bot on Discord was compromised and is apparently nuking servers. Ooh, I have that bot in my server, don't I? Yeah, I do. Is it still compromised, or is it still nuking servers, whatever that means? Because if so, I might have to get rid of it. But then that's kind of a problem because it takes care of the pronoun roles. I have an outdoor cat named Lilac. 4 days till my birthday. Happy early birthday. Imagine blaming school shootings on irrelevant things such as video games, weed, and transsexuals. So pathetic, but like you said, it's a scapegoat. Yeah, it absolutely is a scapegoat. I watched a 10 comp of it. The homeless war vet in Valentine. Oh, I remember a homeless war vet in my last playthrough. I thought his name was Mickey, though, not Mikey. No, they're jokes aside, they are both pretty much the same nickname. They're both short for Michael. Just that one has a different spelling and pronunciation, but functionally they're the same nickname. I'm not sure if it's still compromised, but it would be better safe than sorry to probably kick it. There's another bot for roles like Roly Poly, but I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works either, and I'm pretty sure I got someone else to set up the Carlbot thing for pronouns. Uh, might have to. But if I kick Carlbot, does that mean everyone who selected selected pronouns for themselves? Does that mean that their roles go away? Their pronoun roles go away, I should say. I admittedly don't really know how that works. It's funny. I've been running a Discord server for 7 years, but um, I I still I'm still not. I still don't really know much about how um these Discord bots function, or when it comes to like creating new channels and you know or all the shit that comes with assigning different roles and such. I usually just have other people handle that for me, or like different permissions that come with certain roles and all that mess. I kicked Carl Buff from my server and their roles were retained. Then I guess it's not that big of a loss, I suppose, if I kick the bot. Because that's really its only function it's ever served in my server, I believe, just assigning people pronoun roles. And I'm looking at the pronouns chat right now. I've had it since February 21st, 2021. I honestly thought it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago I set up that channel, but no. 30 him, he, hims, 19 she, hers, 12 they, thems, 3 Zers, and yeah. Oh, goodbye. You served the server well for 3 years. You don't know who Queso is? I don't. What are bots? I'm talking about Discord bots on the app Discord, which is pretty much a chat room, essentially. And I finally caught up with the chat. You made it to the bottom of the comment page. Yeah, I did. Slowly but surely, I made it to the bottom. Only took me a hour and 38 minutes to get to the bottom. Well, that's fine, and I'm actually surprised we're already at the hour and 38-minute mark. In a little over 20 minutes, I'll be wrapping up the stream at around the 2 hour mark. 2 hour and 5 minute mark, to be exact. I think I've had people ask me before why specifically 2 hours and 5 minutes, and to that I say, I don't know, it just feels right. I've just always been in the habit of ending streams at around the 2 hour and 5 minute mark. I don't know, maybe it's my autism. He's been famous for a year or two. Well, I don't really know much about famous YouTubers. I don't really watch much YouTube outside of political commentary and some gaming channels. And when I say gaming channels, I don't mean like gameplay channels or let's play channels or live stream VOD channels of someone playing a game. No, I mean like gaming news and discussing videos. What's the worst fast food restaurant? Well, I don't go out of my way to eat much fast food, but Taco Bell once gave me diarrhea. So I guess that's your answer. I don't think Pizza Hut really counts as fast food. More like, a chain. But I once had Pizza Hut at a friend's birthday party. I think I was 11 or 12 at the time. I think it was either 2012 or 2013. This party happened, but I had Pizza Hut, ate a few slices of Pizza Hut because that's what they were serving at the party. Next day, I was throwing up all morning. Oh, that fucking grease they put in the pizza. Ugh. Long John Silver's is the worst fast food restaurant to many people, apparently. I've never had Long John Silver's, and I don't even know if there's any Long John Silver's around here. Let me check Google. Google's not giving me a location for any Long John Silver's, which probably indicates there isn't any around me. Maybe that's a good thing. If it really is the worst. He's a Twitch streamer who moved to YouTube. What kind of a streamer is he? Is he a video game streamer? I've been noticing quite a few people have been moving from Twitch to YouTube. I know Penguin Zero like a year ago. He stopped streaming on Twitch and has moved his streams to his YouTube channel. The Mr. Beast restaurant is the worst. Is there legit a Mr. Beast restaurant? I know he has his own line of hamburgers and chocolate and shit. I didn't know there was actually a Mr. Beast restaurant though. Is it just a singular restaurant or is it a chain? Yeah, after everything that's come out about Mr. Beast in these last few months though, yeah, fuck him. Seems like a really terrible person. There's a Long John Silver's nearby that's combined with a Taco Bell that no one goes to and nobody eats at because even those that like Taco Bell avoid Long John Silver's within a 7 mile radius. God damn, is it really that bad? I've heard of Long John Silver's, but I never really heard anyone speak ill of it because I never really pay attention to the chain. Because again, I've never eaten at one, so I never really thought much of it. I actually like Taco Bell except for their stupid crunch wraps. Well, after I got sick after eating Taco Bell, and this was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, eaten, I haven't eaten there since. Queso says you're banned as a joke a lot whenever someone makes jokes about his weight, but he doesn't actually care about jokes about his weight. So I take it he's a heavy guy. Yeah. I hate Long John Silver's. Yeah, I'm pretty sure yeah, you got your point across with your other message about Long John Silver's. Oh, my computer is telling me it needs to charge. Hang on for a second. There's even a Meat Canyon joke of it. I'm familiar with Meat Canyon. They do those surreal animation videos. Pretty sure. Do you have an HP? No, I have a MacBook. MacBook Pro. 2019 model, to be exact. Maybe I should get a new model one of these days. Because I hear Apple is dropping support for it. It's not going to be getting any updates anymore. Relatively soon. So I have a Samsung Galaxy 3. I have an iPhone 14 right here. Max Rock. No, I was kind of expecting to say, "Oh God, you have a Mac," ugh. But yeah, I've been liking this Mac. I know people shit on Macs because of how overpriced they are, which, to be fair, yeah, they are. But this computer has served me well. It served me well through the pandemic. I got this MacBook in, I think, either August or September of 2019. Around the time I started my first semester of community college, and not that long after that, we went in. The pandemic happened. We went in lockdown, and all of my classes transitioned online. And this Mac has really served me well during that. That's too bad. I was going to a really nice community college, really nice atmosphere. I liked the professors. I liked a lot of the students going there. But I only had one full semester at that community college, in person, the fall 2019 semester, and then about a month into the second semester, early 2020. That semester started in January of 2020, and a little over a month after that, that's when the lockdown began, and that's when I had to take online courses. And for the remainder of my time at that community college, all of my classes were online. Yeah, unfortunate, but yeah, it's what we had to do. I bought a MacBook Air when it first existed in 2008, and now I have an HP, but an C. iPhone C. Do you mean the 5C? Because that phone is like uh over 10 years old. I used to have a Mac, but it was destroyed by my mother. Why would your mom destroy your Mac? What the fuck? iPhone 10. I mean, sorry for the spelling error. Now it makes sense. I was gonna be like, are you still rocking an iPhone 5C in 2024? I mean, if you were and the phone was still genuinely serving you well, more power to you. I just kind of found that a little surprising at first. There's an Apple event on September 9th at 1 p.m. I haven't seen any of those live in a very long time. I usually, if there's any highlights I give a shit about, I usually just watch the highlights. And they're probably gonna unveil the iPhone 16 at that event, I'd imagine. So I'll probably, you know, um, see a little bit of that. I don't know if I'll get the iPhone 16. I'm still fine with my regular 14. I got this like a year and a half ago, so my um, I'm not due to upgrade yet. It's funny how they never made another C iPhone other than the 5C because the 5C was a flop. Which is a little unfortunate. I kind of wish they kept making iPhones in different colors like that. I have an iPod Touch. I think it's the fifth generation iPod Touch, and supposedly my iPod Touch is worth a lot of money. Not because the iPod Touch itself um, is worth a lot of money, more so because I still have the mobile game Flappy Bird installed in it. Anyone remember that? Well, maybe not the 13-year-old in chat, but for us, for the rest of us, anyone remember that? But I'm not selling that iPod Touch. Too many memories attached to it. My son had an iPod Touch when he was 10. I remember everyone at my middle school playing Flappy Bird. Flappy Bird took over my middle school. Everyone was playing it. And at first I was like, yeah, this is just a stupid mobile game. And, it was at the end of the day, but I found it to be addicting. I was playing that game several times a day back then. And then the developer decided to take it off the App Store, and it has never been on the App Store since. Because supposedly the game ruined his life or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, apparently if you have an old device that still has the game installed on it, and if the device hasn't been updated and can still play the game, that device is potentially worth a lot of money. I'm looking on eBay right now. Someone is selling an iPod Touch with Flappy Bird installed on it for $2,000. I don't know if anyone's actually fucking buying buying these. I hope not. Imagine paying that much money for one App Store game. Rare collectible iPhone 4S with Flappy Bird, Vine, Instagram, and Twitter for $14,000. Yeah, I hope to God no one is fucking actually paying these prices. What's Flappy Bird? An old App Store game that was very popular with kids 10 years ago or 11 years ago, whenever. Yuck, I got tobacco gunk on my couch. Ooh. Well, that sucks, I suppose. Someone's selling an iPhone 6 with Flappy Bird installed onto it for $300. I know the game hasn't been on the App Store for at least 10 years, but are people really that desperate to play the game on original hardware to the point where they pay these fucking prices? Flappy Bird. Someone's selling an iPhone with Flappy Bird for $5,000. $1,000. $500. $12,000. Alright, I'll stop now. My brain is hurting. I could have a vacation with that money, yeah. Why go on a vacation when you could blow it all in an iPhone that has a old App Store game installed onto it? Speaking of old Apple products, it still kind of sucks that the iPod was discontinued. The iPod Touch, I mean, it was the last iPod on the market. I mean, I know these days there's not really much point to an iPod, especially a fully dedicated music playing device. But even still, it's kind of sad. 2 years later, I was kind of hoping against hope when the 20th anniversary came around that they would that Apple would release like a special limited edition iPod Classic. But no, that didn't happen. Oh well. I remember when Steve Jobs died. I remember when Steve Jobs died as well. I was still in elementary school when he died. Better than Elon Musk, I suppose. Most people are better than Elon Musk, to be fair. Wretched person. Imagine somehow making Twitter even worse. I mean, Twitter was already considered a junk social media platform before Elon Musk acquired it, but he somehow made that site even worse than it already was. Also, I know this is irrelevant, but Elon changing Twitter to X is dumb. It's very dumb. I don't even understand the thought process behind it because the name Twitter is synonymous with, one of the social media titans of the last 20 or so years. I mean, Twitter even had its own vernacular. You didn't just call posts on Twitter posts, you called them tweets, and reposts were called retweets. Not many other social media sites um, had such a thing. Twitter is unique in that sense, but Elon took that uniqueness away. Took away the brand recognition in favor of a stupid single letter. He should be ashamed of himself. Well, I don't think he has the ability to feel any shame at all. It's also funny that Tucker Carlson, after he got shit canned from Fox News, he went over to Twitter and he has his own Twitter show. And I think people only gave a shit about that for like, I don't know, a week at most when the show debuted. And I don't hear anyone talking about it anymore. I thought for sure he would go over to like the Daily Wire or any of these other uh, right wing conglomerates, but no, he went to Twitter, which I think is so funny. And he's just kind of wasting away over there. Not even a fraction of the relevance he had on Fox News. That was a great day, by the way. Tucker Carlson got fired. Does he think he's futuristic or something with X? I think he's just obsessed with edgy and mysterious aesthetic with no actual point. Like he just likes edgy and mysterious aesthetic for the sake of edgy and mysterious aesthetic. And what's more mysterious than the letter X in front of a dark background? So ominous, am I right? What mystery is being solved here? I don't know. I don't know. It's just stupid at the end of the day. What's my favorite pizza topping? At most, I'll have pepperoni, but I mostly just go with plain pizza. Mine's pineapple. Again, I don't like pineapple on pizza at all, but more power to you, I suppose. Oh damn, it's already 6:30. Well, I once ordered a plain pizza with no sauce and no cheese from Papa John's when I was really high after smoking weed like 25 years ago. I had Papa John's one time at during my senior year of high school. We were having some kind of event one day, and even though there's a really good local pizzeria right by my high school that I order from all the time, they went with Papa John's instead of that place. And I mean, it wasn't bad pizza, but it wasn't great either. They asked, "Are you sure you want a pizza with nothing?" I've never been asked that. I just say plain, and they're like, "All right." And with that said, I see that we hit the 2 hour and 5 minute mark, so I am ready to end this stream. Let me go through the whole spiel I usually go through at the end of these streams. Thank you for being here, and thank you to all who were here before but aren't here now. I appreciate everyone who participates in these streams, and this stream in particular was very fun and very active too, which I always appreciate. I really enjoy talking to the people who participate in these streams a lot. Anyway, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say besides there'll be a stream sometime in October. I don't know when in October, but it'll definitely be sometime in October. Anyway, goodbye for real now.